Alright, so here's another installment. We're going to start calling these looking back to look forward. Okay, and the idea is that we're reviewing some things while talking about how we can improve and move forward and use these ideas, especially some of the theoretical stuff, to apply to things in future weeks. So this is some comments about the cycle of socialization assignment. And this is going to get a little more meta. We're going to be talking a little bit more about how to do assignments here and how to apply theory. So something I'd like you to think about is the idea of why. Anything you write for this class, you want to explain why. For example, a lot of people mentioned how certain things had a great impact on them, but then they didn't explain why. As a reader, I'm sitting there going, okay, wow, it had this great impact on you. That sounds really important and probably pretty interesting. But then you moved on to the next idea without me being able to understand it. So it's super important to explain the why, explore how something was impactful, why it was important, and then also how it connects to the article. Something else to consider is, especially for this particular article, the cycle of socialization, is that each person's identity and each person's cycle of socialization is very complex. Okay? You can look at it through many different lenses. For example, your cycle of socialization could be looked at through a lens of racism, a lens of sexism, a lens of religious oppression. Ultimately, doing this assignment, we could have written multiple essays that are multiple pages each instead of just the short, 600 or 700 words that you wrote. So remember that it's super complex and you can reapply it multiple times. So when we're talking about the complexity of each person's socialization, it's really important to make sure that you're applying as many different aspects of the article itself to specific examples from your life. Anytime that you can combine both the theory and your experiences, that's going to prove something, or prove to be something useful for you and for the reader. Also, another thing that you want to take a look at is sometimes these readings are pretty complex, and it's super important to accurately interpret the article. I'm just going to read this because this says it basically in the way I want it to be said. Bobby Harrow in no way is saying that being a victim or being devalued is something to feel bad about. In fact, she's saying the opposite. It is a fact, right? It is a fact, not an opinion. A fact that as a woman, societal structures have victimized and devalued women. You can't control that, right? That's just how our society has worked. It's a form of oppression. Just because you have been devalued by someone or by oppressive people does not, however, mean that you are worthless. I've talked about that before. That we're not talking about human value here. We're talking about how people have treated each other and how the system has come to be. Everybody's extremely valuable as a person. The problem is, and namely in this example, sexist men have devalued women. Right? So does that make sense? Like being in the subordinate category it's not a value judgment. It's simply an observation of what has gone on, and it's an observation based on the idea that there are people out there who are doing oppressive and horrible things to other people, and we need to recognize those and try to change them. That's all.